I'm Aaron Freeman, and I'm just trying to figure out who predicted Kyle Pitts to go off on Thursday night. Oh, it was yours truly, me.
And I'm Tenitra Batiste. Did not pick this, did not predict this, but you know what I will say? Payback looks good on you, Atlanta.
And I'm Jarvis Davis, and I've been talking about D Alpha all year long. Y'all know what it is. It's the Falcons squad, baby. Let's go.
ATL! ATL!
Rise up, A-Town. It's the Falcons squad. Everything Atlanta Falcons every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the ATL. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Straight from the ATL, the Falcons Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Falcons Squad Show, your home for the best Atlanta Falcons football talk. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me, our Locked On Falcons host, Aaron Freeman, and Locked On analyst, Jarvis Davis. The Squad Show is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Well, he's called it all season, so you should have known. Jarvis Davis told you if the offense did this, then they'd get a win. We're going to discuss exactly how, but Jarvis and Aaron also told you, I told you too, that if the defense plays kind of good, kind of bad, kind of ugly, it would be a fight to the finish. So we'll talk about that as well. And wait a minute, hold up. Team showed up a little bit tonight. We will absolutely have to discuss. But first things first, we're going to keep it still 100. And that is, this was an absolute nail biter that didn't have to be a nail biter. The 29-28 final where the Atlanta Falcons overcome everything, it seemed like, to defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 29-28 to improve to 5-9 on the season, to finally break that 6-game losing streak and to also avenge an early season loss to their division opponents. But guys, let's just be honest. And Aaron, I'll start with you. And we will, I promise, get to the positive, because you definitely called out some of the key factors and the X factor whom you thought would be so critical to the Falcons' chances at winning this game. But let's just be real about this. We got to be honest, because at the end of the day, when you go for a failed 2-point conversion at the moment that the Falcons decided to go for it, coupled with the fact that you somehow rack up 19 penalties, almost the record that had been set about 6 years ago. You rack up 19 penalties for 125 yards, and you have a turnover, and somehow you still walk away with this game, this W. So you do still have to ask the question, Free. Did the Falcons win this game, or the Bucs, with their quirky play calling in the final minutes of the game, actually lose it?
Well, I'm pretty sure Locked On Bucks, James Yarko, is going to say that the Bucks lost this game. So
yeah, our guy sure will. You're right.
Yeah. So I think you can go either way. This was, as you said, T, this was not a pretty win. It was very sloppy. This is the type of game that I know. Once the Bucs took that 28-14 lead, I was like, well, we know that the Falcons can't come from behind in the down 14 points, because we just haven't seen it. I can't remember the last time we've seen this team be able to overcome that type of deficit, particularly with the struggles that their offense has had when they've gotten into pass situations this year and in previous years. And to see this team go out there, kind of dink and dunk their way down the field, score, they go for 2. Right. And there's going to be a debate, right? Like you're in that situation where you can kick the extra points, tie the game, and, play potentially for a final possession in overtime. Mm-hmm. Or if you can convert one of those 2-point conversions, you have a chance to take the lead at a point in the stage in the game where you could potentially win that game. So I understand why they went for 2.
Yeah.
You can have a conversation, like, given the kicking issues, do you want to put, I'm not as mad.
Free. Let me stop you, man. Okay. Respectfully, they're not that good to be thinking like that. Let's keep it funky. Okay. They're not that good to be thinking like that.
Okay.
Against the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, all right, cool. All right, whatever. Okay. Yeah, Coach Analytics said, yeah, man. That's yep. Understood, coach.
I'm
Move
trying
on.
to give him the benefit of the doubt, Jarvis. They got to win tonight. I'm trying.
Hey, man, look, man.
Right.
Let me tell you something.
You let Free stay in his happy place,
They
Jarvis.
ain't that good, man. They ain't
Let
that
him
good.
live.
I be thinking like
fair.
that.
That's fair.
Good
I
teams
saw them do
use
it, and I
analytics
was
as
just
an
like,
excuse.
I get why they're doing it,
Yeah.
but like obviously it's the Falcons, so it's like of course they're not going to make the 2-point conversions, and so they're making it harder on themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like they did everything in their power to kind of lose this game, but they still found a way to win it. And you just got to wonder which team wanted it less, right? And I guess the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were the team that in the end wanted it less.
You know what, Free? Truer words never ever spoken, because you're right. I mean, Jarvis, when you look at the way that Todd Bowles and his team decided to approach their final possession of the game, knowing that there were about 3.5 minutes left on the clock, and all you pretty much have to do is salt it and kind of force the Falcons to take their timeouts, maybe even getting yourself to the 2-minute warning and then kind of forcing them again. But instead, what do? Okay, they do get a 6-yard run. They get a 1-yard run, a 5-yard pass, but then a -4-yard run, an incompletion, and a sack that leads to a punt. So basically 6 plays in 8 yards in those plays, and you only take 1:45 off the clock. And although the Buccaneers definitely had their moments where they struggled, including getting a penalty on that final drive, ultimately, because of the way that they, to me, mismanaged their final possession of the game, that's why I asked the question of, was it more that the Bucs lost this game versus the Falcons won it?
I think when you look at it, like, I feel like on that 2nd and 14, when they decided to throw the football and they stopped the clock, they opened the door.
Yep.
Because let's keep it funky now. What, 3rd and 28? You get 14, you get half of it, and then for 4th and 14, you mess around and get that too. I mean, hey, and then what? David Seals is on the other end of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted it then. At that point, right, with less than a minute to go in the game, that's when the Falcons decided, hey, they wanted that more. Like, they wanted it more. But they wanted it less for about a good 58
and a half seconds, 58 and a half minutes.
58 minutes. We didn't know who wanted to win the football game. But
if anybody did.
Once it got inside that 1 minute mark, that's when the Falcons decided, yep, we trying to win this bad boy. And then so you got to give a shout out to Kyle Pitts, shout out to the offensive line outside the penalties. I know we probably may talk about that a little bit later on, but I called out the offensive lines a little bit earlier on too, on Thursday on the squad show. Just, hey man, y'all boys have to step up tonight. And I think they did a good job protecting Kirk and opening up holes for Bijan Robinson. Because the way he was out there tonight, I mean, outside of that fumble, I think, he was magical.
We can't give Bijan the ball in the 3rd quarter anymore. That's basically going to be the new rule.
He fumbled in the 3rd quarter. Yeah. I said that to myself. Yeah. I was like, man, did he do this in the 3rd quarter?
Yeah.
Like, bro, what's wrong with you?
3rd quarter is Tyler Algier at this point in time.
Yeah, exactly. Give the ball to Tyler in the 3rd quarter.
2-5, and you will get the ball in the 3rd, at least in the beginning of the 3rd quarter. 7.5 minutes in. Bijan Robinson can't touch the ball.
Right, because apparently that halftime break is not enough. Like, apparently Bijan is coming out there in the 3rd quarter like, I'm not ready yet, coach. No, don't put me in, coach. Like, I'm not ready. So, yeah, you may have to – there may be some nuances there to exactly what it is that keeps him from keeping the ball in his hand for the first half of the 3rd quarter. But nonetheless, you got to give him credit for having an all-around good game and redeeming himself later in the game, like he often does when he kind of fumbles it, no pun intended, in the first part of the 3rd quarter. But that said, listen, we got to talk about the X factor. If you guys caught us or checked out the squad show earlier today, we talked about our X factors and who we thought needed to make that difference, particularly on offense, for this team to be able to take home a W, right? And the guy that you called out, I mean, Free, you were optimistic in saying, hey, you're looking at what Kyle Pitts has been able to do throughout the course of his career and hoping for another one of those opportunities, what he's been able to do to the Bucs. So just to run it back, he had 1 touchdown in the first 14 14 weeks of the season. One, Aaron. But in the first 29 minutes tonight, 2 scores. And again, 33 catches for 463 yards and 3 touchdowns in 7 games versus the Bucs in his career. But then you look at tonight, first 100-yard game in 4 years. And he had that actually by halftime. And of course, Kyle Pitts Sr. finishes the game, 11 receptions on 12 targets, 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns and 166 yards. So your X factor absolutely showed up. He kind of likes it in the Bay.
Yeah. You know, I know Maria Martin is sick with it somewhere, being like, why couldn't he do this last week? But like,
right.
You know, as you said, T, like he always does this against the Bucs. He always plays his best games of the year against the Bucs. And so to me, it was kind of the low-hanging fruit, because as we discussed on the squad earlier today, it was like, who else is getting the football? Because until David Sills caught that pass at the end of the game, like ain't nobody else was really getting open and catching passes.
I cut David Sills in the first half.
Yeah,
I cut him.
No, Jarvis, no, Jarvis, you cut him this morning on the squad show.
Oh yeah.
No, you had him he was on
I cut him too,
Jarvis Davis's list of inactives today.
When David Sills dropped that would-be touchdown, I was just like,
I was wondering when was going to come to our chat, because of course we have our group text. I was
was about to send a text. I was about to send a text, but I was like, I ain't want to act like I was in my feels, because you know what I'm saying, I was trying to protect my heart. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, let me calm down. Let me think about it. You know what I'm saying? Let me breathe. And I was just like, nah, I ain't gonna send the text, because I might say something that
it was so bad. I laughed. I wasn't even mad. I just laughed at it. I was just like, this is the most David Sills play that you could possibly have. And then later in the game, he's like, no, redeem my name, Aaron. Keep my name out your mouth with that 4th and 14. But going back to Kyle Pitts, like Todd Bowles just has not been able to figure out how to slow this man down. Yeah. And you know, I was sitting there. We always have these, like, I remember going back last year, even in the good games, where Pitts would have a good game and then he would make some mistakes. He would always make one blunder in a game, and I was just kind of just waiting, like, well, what's going to be the blunder? And you know, if you want to say like, oh, maybe his blocking wasn't as good, but it's like, hey man, you catch 166 yards and 3 touchdowns, then I ain't going to complain too much about, you know, you maybe not making a couple of combo blocks in a football game. And so you know, people sit there and go like, why don't we get this version of Kyle Pitts every single week? Well, we don't get to face Todd Bowles every single week because for whatever reason, he just has no answer for Kyle Pitts, and that was on display tonight.
Yeah, Jarvis. I mean, to the point where I literally was like, well, my goodness. I mean, and we'll talk about the other standout in a few minutes, but it literally felt like, okay, why don't we just play every game in Tampa featuring Kyle Pitts and Kirk Cousins? I mean, like, why don't we just say, hey, 8, just go on and take a ride down 75 South and play every game if you could get it like this? Because, man, I mean, Kyle Pitts Sr., give him his flowers, give him his credit, because Aaron called it out earlier today as his X factor. I gave you guys the numbers, and then the numbers don't lie. Numbers never lie.
Yeah, and I think the efficiency that he caught the football, 12 targets, 11 catches, that's not something we used to seeing, because he had the big catch on 3rd down, the 3rd touchdown, which may or may not a touchdown. The referee was kind of then he put his arms up in it. He was like he was stretching. He was like, and then you couldn't overturn it because it was so close. But
exactly
for Kyle Pitts to be in a situation where they had to make the call, right? He made the catch, and it was just a huge catch. And like Aaron said, he was like, man, you would think that they were trying to figure out how to do it, but you know, there were times where Zac Robinson was moving him around where you couldn't say, hey, he's gonna be stationary over here. We're gonna lock him up over here. They line him up over here, but you couldn't really do that because you had him lined up in line, and then you were moving around, and Zac was putting him in motion. Am I giving Zac kudos? Yeah, I guess I am. But yeah, but yeah, when you think about from play calling to Zac was in his bag tonight. I gotta give Zac. I gotta give Zac. I gotta give it to him.
Yeah,
He
and hold that
is-
thought, Jarvis, because I
Yeah.
don't even want, this is that rare opportunity where we, and again, this is not to throw shade, this is actually to compliment Zac Robinson. Like, there were a number of things that he did with personnel on the offensive side of the ball that actually worked tonight. And there was variety that we saw and use of a number of players. And so I don't want that to kind of get lost. So save that thought, because just like we saw some great things out of Kyle Pitts Sr. tonight, we actually saw great things out of a couple players. And a lot of that is due to how Zac Robinson called this game. So if it's okay with you guys, when we come back, we'll take that under further review. This episode of our Falcons show is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and even right here in Georgia. And the new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Hawks are back in action tomorrow night against Detroit. So, hey, you might be able to take on and take advantage of Stacks, the new feature that is a game changer. Plus, if any one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. So, Jarvis, I wanted to give some flowers as well, and we'll get back to Zac in just a moment, Zac Robinson, offensive coordinator, and talk about how he played this game. But another one who goes absolutely off, 5 touchdowns in one game, 3 touchdowns in another against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. And again, free with the flowers, because you said this could be a Kirk Simber. I don't know if it's going to be a full-on Kirk Simber, but it was at least a Kirk Simber tonight, because Kirk Cousins had another one of those games, Jarvis, 30 of 44, 373 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the night. So again, got to give kudos to Kirk Cousins, because for whatever reason, he and Zac Robinson are able to get it done against the Bucs.
Yeah, I talked about on our squad show on Thursday about how you can't put yourself in obvious passing downs.
Yes.
There are a couple ways you can do that, right? You can throw the ball on early downs to kind of, loosen up the defense and then squeeze those runs. And we saw some of that. And then you can also have success running the football on the early down. So you can be in a 3rd and short situation. So you can put the defense in a situation where, hey, we don't know exactly what they're going to do. So we're going to play coverage, or we're going to try to send pressure, or we're just going to rush forward. So it gives you kind of limit what you can do from a defensive standpoint, because of the offense having that 2-way go in those 3rd and short situations. So I feel like Zac was able to take advantage of that pretty consistently. They were better on 3rd down. How about that? Hey, be better on 3rd down. They were better. They were better on 3rd down, specifically later on in the contest. So when you think about it from that aspect, Kirkington was he was putting the ball where it needed to be, and it was basically he put the ball in his receiver's court. Kyle Pitts came through, Seals eventually came through, Darnell Mooney came through, and then he almost gave it away. How about this? Shout out to Ryan Newsel, because I don't know how in the world he was able to go get that football.
Yeah.
But somehow he came out with it.
Yeah.
That's what you talk about with. So I'm giving credit to Dwayne Leffert as well, because that is taught. Like, go find some work. Don't be standing your behind up there by that quarterback. Go downfield. If they make a catch, you taking off running, going down the field, trying to find some work, or block downfield, or do whatever, because you don't know what could happen. And Ryan Newsel was right there in the right spot at the right time. So it was just an all-around effort. I saw effort from everybody. And, and we haven't been able to really say that about this team in 2025.
And Jarvis, that's a great call out that you make for Ryan Newsel, because that type of play is what we are accustomed to talking about Chris Lindstrom doing, right?
Sure.
Always going down the field and making a critical block, or just making sure that if something is happening, he's got that nose for the football that doesn't just stop at the line of scrimmage. So yeah, to call out Ryan Newsel in that good way of being able to do that, I think that's great. Another call out, Aaron, that Jarvis just gave us, which is something that we've been maligning the Falcons for, and rightfully so, for the entire season, is their inability to be efficient on third down. So 5 of 11 tonight, but a big part of that is what Kirk Cousins was able to do, and the position that Zac Robinson was able to put this team in, or put this offense in, multiple times this game, to be able to move the chains.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, just on the Ryan Newsel point, wasn't that the Bucs game last year where they were able to get down the field and spike the ball in under like 12 seconds to set up the field goal to win the game?
Yeah, he was at center.
Add Ryan Newsel to the list of Bucs killers, you know, at this point in time, in terms of just like snatching these wins. But you're right, T. Like early in the game, it was just like third and long after third and long after third and long, and like Kirk was just kind of just like, well, check the ball down and we'll punt and we'll play field position. Defense was playing reasonably well, so it was that sort of situation. But later in the game, you were able to get into a lot more third and shorts, third and mediums, and you saw Kirk Cousins consistently deliver in those situations. And it just goes to show that, like, if you can put Kirk Cousins in favorable situations, he can go out there and manage a game, you know, hit those throws to open receivers down the sideline, down the seam and whatnot. And that was really what Kirk was able to do in this game. And I know just early in the game, I'm just like, all right, it's 3rd and 18. Kirk's going to check the ball down. Kyle Pitts, we're going to punt the ball, you know, and it was just like, all right, like this is what it is. And then late in the game, when the Falcons were able to have some success on those early downs and set up those third and manageables, that's where you really needed your veteran quarterback to go out there and deliver. And I think Kirk did.
Indeed. And I love what Trey 1614 says. So I'm going to give you credit for that. And we can kind of agree. If we're here talking about the third game that Kirk Cousins has played against the Bucs as a Falcon and what he's been able to do all 3 times, I'll give you that, Trey 1614. Yeah, Kirk owns the Bucs. Yeah, I think that's a valid statement. I think that's a true statement as well. And the Falcons, by virtue of what Kirk has been able to do, that's when they've had their success these last 2 seasons against these Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And again, shouting him out more so because at one point in this game, it was so like crazy. And again, we'll get down to the penalties and the bad part of the penalties. But there was one point in the game where Bijan Robinson had more like yards. The Falcons had just as many penalty yards as Bijan Robinson had yards. But I say that to say that Bijan Robinson was eating it up because, of course, the Falcons ended up with 125 penalty yards. But that's how much he was so effective on the ground and in the air. And again, you know, of course, that fumble, that was kind of costly. But Jarvis, it still takes nothing away from what Bijan Robinson was able to do with another multi-purpose game. 19 carries, 93 yards, almost 5 yards a carry. And then again, and a touchdown, of course. And then again, being effective, the second leading receiver tonight. I think we saw that from him last week as well. 8 receptions, 11 targets, and 82 yards. So still Bijan Robinson, a big part of this offense tonight, and how Zac Robinson once again was able to put him in different positions to be successful.
Yeah. When you think about what he's able to do, pretty consistent.
Yes.
You know, he's pretty consistent with amazing plays, right? Like on that touchdown run specifically, the way he just bounced it out.
Yeah.
There are not too many backs. I could probably count maybe 1 or 2 that can make that cut. Maybe 1, Jahmyr Gibbs. And, you know, he's probably the only guy that can make that type of cut and just bounce it out and no one's there. He just walks into the end zone because no one think he's going to be able to get outside because of the way the edge guy was playing on Jake Matthews. And when you that's just one of those things where you just look at the type of player that he is and what he's able to bring to the table. Let me say this to you.
Yeah.
Bijan is so good that you don't even want to bring up the fumbles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you don't even want to bring him up because you're like, man, he was so amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you don't can bring him up.
That's fair, Jarvis.
Yeah, it just what he brings to the table is just you talking about the all-purpose yardage leader in the league, and the way those guys were blocking up front for him, it's a beautiful thing to watch, to see this man get that ball, put in his stomach, and just watching him go to work. It is amazing to watch.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. And Free, when I was saying it pretty much the same way as Jarvis, like I almost hate to bring up the fumble because he was able, and this is the thing I love about him as well, like give him respect for being able to redeem himself. Like he sat there on that bench and the camera kind of panned to him and, he was sick to his stomach, but not to the point where he couldn't get back out there and get his head in the game for the very next possession and be able to contribute to the team the rest of the way. And that's, to me, the consummate professional. And despite of what the Falcons record shows, the guy is a winner. He has a winning mindset. And this is, to me, something that shows you once again, like Jarvis said, keyword consistency. This is who Bijan Robinson is. This is what he does.
Yeah, and you talk about that drive where he bounces back after the fumble to start the fourth quarter, right? And they kind of go to him like the first 3 or 4 plays of that drive. And, it's 7 yards here, 6 yards here, 4 yards here, those types of things. But that's the thing that gets that momentum going. The Falcons go up tempo. I know Jarvis was sitting there fist pumping like, oh, up tempo, no huddle offense. First time in a long time. And so like they're able to take advantage of that. And that's what you want to see for Bijan kind of bounce back again. Like you measure, like what's a 7-yard gain to a potential game-changing fumble, but it's like those are the plays that you need to sort of get your team back in terms of the momentum to get back in that position and put themselves in a position to go and get that score. And then obviously later in the game on that drive, it was actually that he was able to finish it off with the touchdown there. So a great redemption drive for Bijan Robinson. And that's part of the reason why you can sit there and say like, yeah, he fumbled. It could have been costly. We could have been sitting here 2 weeks in a row talking about a fumble that cost the Falcons the game in the third quarter from Bijan Robinson. But this time he was able to really redeem himself, particularly on that next drive.
Indeed. And shout out to the Bucs for accepting the penalty to give the Falcons 2 shots whenever they needed it. Because, hey, once again, it's not the Falcons' problem if you give them the opportunity. All they can do is put themselves in position to take advantage of it, right? And that's another thing that you see with a Bijan Robinson. He takes advantage of the opportunities that he's given. But real quick, wanted to go back to Zac Robinson, JD, wanted to go back to Zac Robinson, Free. Just any other thoughts that you guys had just in terms of the game that he called overall?
You got
go for it.
Yeah, we talk about the no huddle going up tempo when you needed it, right? That's something been missing. There were some issues getting some of the plays in on time again, but earlier in the game. But they figured it out. They got it right in the end when they needed it late in the game. And not only what we talked about earlier with some of the creative ways that they were trying to feature Kyle Pitts, you like to see. They did some creative runnings. I know there was that one big run by Tyler Algier where they used Bijan in motion to kind of draw the defender, and Algier was able to hit a big run on that for 15 yards. And it's just like those are like the little things that you wanted to see from Zac Robinson all season long that we haven't consistently been able to do and see, because so much of this offense is kind of like a one-off where it's like, oh, they did this thing this week. Are we going to see that again? And then 4 weeks go by, you don't see it again. But it was you all got all that stuff together in this one game where like it just feels like, in addition to Kyle Pitts and Kirk Cousins, like Zac Robinson has coached some of his best games against this Todd Bowles defense these last couple of years. And, you wish you had that sort of confidence going up against Todd Bowles every week. But again, like beggars can't be choosers when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons. So if we can get this once or twice a year against the Bucs, I'll take it. I guess that's all we can do.
Win is a win.
Yeah, and to go into this game with a tight end and a running back as your only weapons on offense, and figure out a way to put up numbers like they did tonight, shout out to the game plan and like Free mentioned, having Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson in at the same time. I love that type of stuff.
Yeah. I don't think we see it enough.
Yeah, exactly. Like you put the defense on their heels because you know anytime 7 goes into motion, lines up outside, those corners flying up, those linebackers are looking, trying to see what's going on because, hey, it's a screen, it's coming, you know, and for a long time early on in the season, it was obvious, right? But now it's kind of like, all right, okay, you all, we're going to send 7 in motion over here. Yep, we're going to turn around and hand this ball off on the weak side back to Tyler Algier. And those are the type of things that, like Free mentioned, that's what you're here for. You're here to put your offense in situations where they have an advantage. And he did that pretty consistently tonight. So shout out to Zac Robinson, shout out to Bijan, shout out to Kyle Pitts for consistently coming through. You had a little couple weird blocking situations. I know Free, we ain't gonna talk about that tonight, but I feel like that man had a hell of a game, and he deserves all the credit. Like he went out there and balled, man. He came up huge for this team tonight.
Yeah, well, see there, Castro, Clay? Jarvis, which is what he said. I'm only here to hear some love for employee number 8 finally. See, he gave him all the love. Employee number 8 got the love that he deserved. When we come back, we're going to give a little bit of love to the defense, but we got to also keep it real about some of the things we saw that really were some head scratchers that made our stomachs turn even in a 29-28 win. This episode of our Falcon Squad Show is brought to you by ZocDoc. Guys, it's 2025, but almost 2026. And those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously. And ZocDoc makes that easier than ever because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. So no more back and forth phone calls or waiting weeks to be seen. It lets you compare providers using real patient reviews, not ads. Also, ZocDoc makes it simple to keep your health a priority, even with a busy schedule. And if used to schedule appointments, you can do so quickly and you don't have to wait weeks to do it. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments. Get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, Aaron, the defense kind of went back to something that you and I kind of coined last season, which is if we're going to play an Oreo game, all right, fine, play an Oreo game. Just make sure it's good at the beginning. Might be a little shaky in the middle, a little creamy, a little soft, but come back strong in the end. And I guess we kind of sort of saw an Oreo game tonight from this defense, right?
Yeah. You know, we talked about this on the Falcon Squad show where it was like, we got to get Baker Mayfield on the ground. They got 5 sacks tonight. I think that was a big part. Those negative plays put the Bucs in some bad situations that killed some of those drives that prevented the Bucs having the success that they had throughout the night throwing the football. That's part of the reason why they threw that ball on 2nd and 14 or whatever, because it was like, ain't nobody really covering. And there's like a 90% chance that you're going to probably get a penalty from somebody in the secondary in this game. I'm going to blame the footing. Right, that AJ was being extra grabby because the cleats were not right. That's what we're gonna go with.
Let's go with that. I'm good.
Because 5 penalties, it was a rough night for AJ, and after we gave so much love to him this morning, who was that? Was that Maria Martin that was leading that? I know. I'm sorry. Maria's like, why am I getting thrown in?
Why am I getting shaded?
No, but we've seen this team struggled to cover these wide receivers. And
Sure.
you saw the Bucs at full strength. They had everybody. And they got,
back.
you know, when you talk about being deep at wide receiver, it is, you know, when you're going like 5 deep, and that's like that guy might be our number 1 on our team, and he's the number 5 on that team. And so they went after AJ. Well, they didn't really go after AJ, but it was just like AJ every time was like just grabbing. They went after Kobe Bryant.
Oh, no question.
And he got blessed by Mike Evans many times in this game. They went after D. Alford many times in this game, and he proved to be ultimately the hero at the end to snag that interception, looking very Brent Grimes-esque, you know, climbing the ladder to snag that interception to really set up that second to last score for the Falcons. And so that's what you mean, T, where the Oreo game, where it's just like, ooh, it's been a rough night for this secondary, but the front was able to get home, right? Some of those sacks were coverage sacks where the coverage was good and they weren't being penalized. And then there were a lot of rough moments in the secondary for this game. But when they needed to make the plays at the end of the game, they went out there and made the plays defensively.
Yeah, and that's what you guys called out earlier today as well, that not so much were we looking at the secondary, but more looking at, hey, if the defensive front can do its job, then it makes it much easier on the back end. And then when you see a guy, Jarvis, like Mike Hughes go down with the ankle injury early, and now you really have to go to like zone, it does make it a little difficult. And I was thinking about that because John Kemp, 1948, kind of made the point or put the question out there in the chat. And thanks, of course, to him as one of our everydayers for always rocking with us here on Falcon Squad Show. But he says, hey, what's up with AJ Terrell? He's been getting toast lately. His words, not mine. But I don't know that I would say he's been getting toasted or roasted lately. I think tonight was just kind of that night. We've definitely seen some quality play from AJ Terrell. But sometimes if you see AJ getting toasted and roasted, it's because of things like what Aaron just called out. Like when you look at the secondary collectively, he's out there fighting for his life because he doesn't have the type of complementary play on the other side. And you can't blame the Bucs for scheming and having a field day as a result.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it like this. This probably has to be the worst game I've seen AJ Terrell play.
At least in a minute. Yeah.
Like it's been quite some time since we've seen this.
Probably since that Vikings game, maybe last year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I look at it like this. You've been in the league this long. There's no reason for you to be getting all of these holding calls.
No, I agree with you.
You know they're going to call it.
Yeah.
And they're going to give Mike Evans the benefit of the doubt. Right. So you can't be reaching and grabbing and all that stuff. Like you putting yourself in position, even if the calls were questionable, you putting yourself in position for them to throw the flag, right? Like falling over, grabbing, putting hands extended. No, man, what you doing? Like, no. Read that man hips and figure out which way you're gonna go and make a decision and go. Don't grab. Nobody's running past you. Mike Evans not running past you at this age. This man been in the league for 17 years, you know, and got 1,000 yards every time he's been in the league, you know. He's not gonna run past you, bro. I promise you. So I just think when you look at it from that standpoint, it's just I think this was a lot of mental. Mentally, he was shot. Basically, he was beat mentally in this game because they were calling everything. If it was close, they were throwing a flag. So it's just one of those instances where you just hope that it's just a one-off, and I'm pretty sure it would be. AJ Terrell is going to bounce back.
Yes,
but this wasn't a good one for him tonight. But I have to talk about this.
Okay, yeah.
That interior defensive line, Brandon Dorless, David Onyemata.
Yes, the good, as you called it out earlier.
Yeah,
tonight.
Man, it was something. They were collapsing that pocket. LaCale London, they were collapsing that pocket for that little vertically challenged little boy. And he didn't know where to go.
Yep.
He didn't know where to go. Yeah. He had nowhere to run to.
Yeah.
And he was just tucking the ball, trying to find somewhere to go. And then next thing you know, James Pierce coming out of nowhere, putting him on the ground. By the way, James Pierce got the rookie sack record as Atlanta Falcons with 8 sacks.
Yeah.
And he's leading all rookies. So, hey, man, look, Didn't Jalen get a half a sack? Didn't he get a half a sack?
Yeah. Yeah. And shout out to James Pierce Jr. and for Jalen Walker just to be able to kind of like power through, because we know part of why we haven't seen the best of him is because his body hasn't allowed for it. But that takes nothing away from what James Pierce Jr. has been able to do, because that was also the conversation that you guys had earlier today in terms of the good that you needed to see, which was not just giving Baker Mayfield fits, although you got to give the Falcons a world of credit for being able to get 7 QB hits in addition to those 5 sacks, because all of those things combined matter. But to get him on the ground was what you guys were also hoping for, and the Falcons really did that. So Free, Jarvis, let me ask you guys before we kind of go to the other side again, what obviously you called out some of the good, what were some of the other good things you guys saw on the defensive side of the ball?
I was going to give Caden Ellis some love, right? We talked about it.
Yeah, you talked about linebackers. Yep.
With Mayfield being able to break contain. And as Jarvis mentioned, like he could not find any running lanes. A bunch of those sacks where Baker Mayfield trying to find room, and you just saw Caden Ellis. It's like, I got you. You step up in this pocket, I'm going to take you down. And you were able to see that with this Falcons pass rush, playing with the discipline that Jarvis has been talking about all season long, that he wants to see from this unit. And so, the interior stepped up, the linebackers stepped up. Jesse Bates was out here making plays, right? Even if he wasn't creating turnovers, but you saw some TFLs, you saw some pressures in this game, out here looking like a box safety, which is not normally what Jesse Bates looks like, but that was a key part to slowing down some of that Bucs run game, particularly in the second half of this game. So like, I think overall, basically, if you just kind of just like, okay, well, we'll just ignore the penalties and we'll ignore some of the 30-yard gains that the Bucs were just able to kind of throw up. And again, I'm just going to blame the footing. I'm just like, oh, Kobe Bryant slipped on that. He got mossed on that play by Mike Evans because he just didn't have quite the footing on that particular play. So I'm going to blame the field conditions, the Raymond James staffers, ruined this night for the Falcons secondary. But like, if you can ignore all that stuff, I think overall it was a great night for the Falcons defense, minus some of those setbacks. But obviously there was a lot of those setbacks, so it's really hard to ignore 15 plays or whatever it wound up working out to be.
Well, just so you know, I'm sorry, Jarvis, just real quick. Free, just so you know, you're not that far off because the humidity was at 80% in Tampa tonight. So listen, having lived there and having covered that team and been at Raymond James, sometimes it can get tricky on that field because that is an open stadium. And also I wanted to just co-sign with you on Caden Ellis having that type of game, because there was this one play in particular, I want to say it was in the second half, where Baker Mayfield thought that he was about to break contain, and Caden Ellis just did such an amazing job of just spying. Like every little move that Baker Mayfield made, Caden Ellis was right there, and he was only able to get a couple yards on that scramble. So you're right, little things like that certainly were the good. What about you, Jarvis, the good you saw?
This may not sound like good, but it for me is good from a developmental standpoint. Kobe Bryant, the experience that he got tonight, and then go in a tank and just get worse. Hey, man, that's a win, because for him to be out there and know that, yep, they're about to target you, bro. They're going at you. And he just kept playing. He just kept coming back. He just kept playing. And that's what you like to see. Like a guy that he's undrafted free agent. You know, all the chips have been stacked up against him, but he got an opportunity. He went out there. He continued to play. I feel like, I go back to the conversation that we had on this show, actually, about Mike Hughes sitting down. Like, hey, man, if you're going to play like that, you can just go on about your business, because we know what you are. But for that to happen tonight, of course, it was based off of injury. Want nobody go down like injury like that. But
sure. And
for him to step in the way he did and say, hey, man, I'm still going to compete. Even on that deep ball, he was right there. You can't ask, and that's all I ask, man. My people argue me down about D. Alford and all that stuff. I like, man, y'all can say what y'all want. He'll get beat, yeah. But guess what? He's gonna be right there in that doggone wide receiver hip pocket, man. He's not gonna get. It's not too many times you see him just getting did up. except for outside of Justin Jefferson in the Minnesota game last night. We ain't gonna talk about that. That was last year. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna bring up old stuff. So,
Don't bring up old stuff.
But no, like that's what you like to see in the corner. I love seeing that in the corner. I feel like for him to get this experience coming down the stretch like this and be able to get a win, like I feel like that's going to be valuable for him and what his trajectory is going to be for the team going forward.
Yeah. So Free, real quick. Now we know it wasn't all good. That's why it was an Oreo type of game for the defense. But what kind of made you cringe and say, "Man, listen, at least don't let us see this for the rest of the games in the season"?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the secondary issues continue to plague this team, and it's just offenses are just like, oh, AJ Terrell, who I don't care whoever line up opposite him, we're throwing at whoever that is. And again, I think the Falcons were able to take advantage of it late in the game with the D offer, where it was just like, I'm going to undercut this because we know where the football's going. But like, yeah, man, they kind of got bailed out by Baker Mayfield in this game, right? The Falcons did, because Baker missed that 2nd and 14. Ibuka was open. He was wide open. He beat D offered clean on that particular play. Yeah. And Baker missed the throw. And, thankfully he did. But like, we would be sitting here maybe not praising D Alford to the degree that we would be praising him if Baker makes that throw in that situation. So
you got to be careful, man. You got to pick and choose your battles.
Yeah.
I'm an expert at that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know when to give praise and when not to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So like, those are the things where it's just like, now I think the good thing for the Falcons is they're not going to face a wide receiver core like this the rest of the way. Or I forgot about the Rams. Never mind. I
hear what you're saying. Because I mean, I don't know if they have. Yeah, I don't know if they're fine. Yeah. They might be too deep and amazing.
The two they got are going to be a problem.
Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua is pretty doggone good.
Yeah. So other than that, though, like I do feel like, these are as Jarvis said, these are the sort of confidence builders that you were able to survive this night. But this secondary still is very much a work in progress.
Yeah, I would agree. But, overall, we're just happy that at the end of the day, even for what we saw in the middle of the game, somehow, some way, the Falcons survived. The Falcons get the 29-28 win, and they escape and return, or I should say return home, because, of course, they're going to be back on the road next week. But at least we have the ability for the first time in 6 weeks to talk about a win, and that also means we can give out game balls. This episode of our Falcon Squad show is brought to you by Car Gurus. Car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars you want. Because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And Car Gurus makes that whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else, so you can shop the way you want. Now, their price drop alerts are an absolute lifesaver. You get notified the second a car you're watching becomes a better deal. The in-depth vehicle reviews also help you understand what ownership actually looks like, not just how the car looks online. And having verified dealerships and upfront pricing makes the whole thing feel transparent and stress-free. So Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, the most of any major outline or online automotive marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. So shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your next car today at cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com, cargurus.com. Ooh, the moment we've all been waiting for 6 weeks. We finally have a chance to get back to giving out some game balls. And Jarvis, I know we haven't had a chance to talk about them, so I'll start off with my game ball on special teams. You had one job, Zane Gonzalez, and darn if you didn't do your job tonight. And I am going to start off giving you my game ball, because in those closing seconds, when you're thinking to yourself, man, is that 2-point conversion going to come back to haunt the Falcons, and they're not going to even have an opportunity to go into overtime to potentially win this game? Didn't have to. Didn't have to. The offense is able to march down the field within the closing 2 minutes of this game. Zane Gonzalez kicks it, walks it off with a nice straight go through the uprights. Let's get out of Tampa type of deal. So I just wanted to give my first game ball to Zane Gonzalez for the 43-yarder that ended up being the game winner for the Falcons. So let's start with special teams, because teams has been on the struggle bus the entire season. So Jarvis, Aaron, I charge you with finding, and you can co-sign, by the way, a game ball for teams.
Yeah, I have to go with Zane Gonzalez because I know, Aaron didn't want to say the man's name or acknowledge that he was on the roster for probably about 8 weeks. So yeah, I'm going
8 weeks, Jarvis.
Right.
Man, extra sauce on it. Come on, man.
Of course, right.
You know me, man. Come on, man, a little extra sauce. But nah, man. But for real though, I think I ain't gonna lie. Can I be honest with y'all? Everybody listening, watching right now.
Of course, you're going to be honest with us anyway.
When is Jarvis never honest?
Exactly. I'm like, what are we talking about here?
Like, you need our permission to be honest.
Right.
Given how things were going with the failed 2-point conversion and them having to even be in a situation to kick a field goal to win the football game, I thought as soon as he could kick that ball, I thought that bad boy was going to hook to the left. And they were like, yep, he got on the left hash, exactly where he wants him. Oh, gosh, no. And then when he kicked it, it's like that bad boy was about to turn just a little bit, and then it just kept going straight. I was like, oh my gosh, I should not feel this doggone and this much anxiety about a 43-yard field goal. But here we are. This is 2025 and the kicking situation that is the Atlanta Falcons. But yeah, game ball definitely goes to Zane Gonzalez to be able to get the win on the road, that clock expiring. And that's huge. I don't care what your name is and how you pronounce it.
What your record is.
And what your record is. You're able to go out there and line up and do it. And they did the old school. Todd Bowles did the old school, try to freeze the kicker and call the timeout. I was like, oh, okay. Right. Look at Todd up here waking up now. You should have told that OC to run the football.
And 14, right?
That's what you should have did.
When you fell asleep a couple plays ago.
That's what you should have did. But hey, Falcons take a win all day. I'll take a win all day. I love talking about wins as much as we joking and all that stuff. I like talking about wins instead of losses. So definitely game ball goes Zane Gonzalez.
Yeah, Free. What about you? Let's give is it a three? What is it? A triumph? A trifecta?
I will not give it a trifecta. Not because it's not deserving of a trifecta, but I'll just give Devin Tompkins some love. Right?
Okay.
Like this was the day of all the receivers that we've been I shouldn't put you all in that. I've been dogging for the last week or two. David Sills and Devin Tompkins. We're waiting on you, Dylan Drummond. But I've been dogging these receivers, and I'm like, what is it that you do? And David Sills had his moments, and Devin Tompkins took over for Jamal Agnew, who was inactive this week, and did fine returning punts. And it was like, okay, if this is what you are going to contribute to the team, I will take that, because Lord knows it has been a roller coaster ride with Jamal Agnew all season long, the former Pro Bowl return specialist. And it's like, okay, if Devin Tompkins, you're going to, make it steady, I'll take steady for special teams all day long. So I'll give Devin Tompkins some love. But yes, Zane Gonzalez absolutely deserving of game ball.
Yeah, indeed. And Jarvis, for you on the defensive side of the ball, who gets your game ball?
Ooh, gosh, so many choices. But I'm going to have to go with James Pierce. Just like how he's developed throughout the year. And then I even go back to when the Falcons first took this man. And let me go back before they even decided to take him, because we knew that the Falcons had fallen in love with him. And then, of course, when the Panthers passed on Jalen Walker and he just fell in their lap, of course you had to take Jalen Walker, right? But and then when they actually traded back into the first round and drafted him, I was like, all right. A lot of people was ran the Raven, like, oh, he ran the 4.45, whatever, and the 40, all that stuff. He fast, he long, lean, all that stuff. Yeah, that's cool. But the man, it's gonna take some development. Like, the man gonna have to work a pass rush plan. he's going to have to. He's not going to be able to athletically beat tackles in the NFL on a consistent basis. It just doesn't happen like that. Guys don't do that. We saw Vic Beasley do it 1 year, and then, hey, if you don't work on it, that's what's going to happen to you. So I think that for him to kind of start off a little bit slow, then he popped off in the Minnesota game, and then now he's on this 6-game streak of having a sack, and now he got the rookie sack record, passes surpassing Mike Pitts in 1983, I think, believe. Very long. The record's almost older than me, and he breaks that bad boy, and shoot, Jalen Walker's coming right behind him. So when you think about it from that standpoint, like, that man deserves a game ball definitely from me, because like the way he's been able to develop just in this one season, like he's been able to have that discipline that I talk about when you talk about squeezing that pocket instead of trying to resist that resisting that temptation to jump your happy butt inside and let that quarterback get outside and run for 10 yards for a first down. He's been able to say, hey, nope, I'm gonna hold exactly what I got right here, and he's gonna get that sack. So yeah, I feel like he's been developing, and I'm excited for this young man's future.
Yeah. What about you, Free? Game ball on defense.
I'm gonna give some love from Brandon Dorless. He was right there, with James Pierce generating a lot of the pressure in this game consistently. It's been something we've been talking about. It's like, is this interior going to step up and take advantage of the favorable matchups they have against two backup guards? And most of the season, it really hasn't been the case outside of that Saints game, where it's like the interior was really getting after the quarterback like that. And Dorless, coming back from the injury, played really well and was right there neck and neck. And, it's the entire, as we mentioned at the top of the show, the entire interior D-line, everybody made plays, which is rare for this group. And so, but to me, like, Dorless was like consistently disruptive in this game. And it's just nice to see, because that has not been something, like, when we talk about this pass rush, even though Dorless has like 7 sacks, a lot of it is cleaning up some of the plays that the edge rushers are getting. The edge rushers are generating the pressures, and then when the quarterback steps up, Dorless is there to take him down. But to see him generating that pressure himself in this game, to me, is a welcome change at this stage in the season, just because, we talk about Grady Jarrett and missing his presence in the middle of this defense. Yeah. And it's like, who's going to be that guy that on third and whatever you can go out there and beat a guard and win. And Dorless has been the closest thing to that for this football team. And it was nice to see him show that in this Thursday night game.
Yeah. And just because I like to get at Jarvis every now and again, I'm going to give my game ball to Jessie Bates III, because he has been much maligned by one Jarvis Davis this season, and I have been still holding up the banner for 3. Yes. Yep. So I am going to give love to Jessie Bates III, because 3 showed up tonight, and maybe not in the ways we're accustomed to him showing up in terms of like turnovers and the like, but just being present, just being a force, and being the second leading tackler for this Falcons team tonight. 8 tackles total, just behind Xavier Watts, by the way, who could get a nice little runner-up or honorable mention for being that guy who would get the game ball on defense. But 6 of those 8 tackles, solo tackles on the part of Jessie Bates. You love to see it. And just to wrap us up on the offensive side, guys, where are you going, Jarvis? Where are you going, Aaron, with your game balls?
For me, I have to go to Kirkington. I give it to Kirkington, because the way he was putting the ball out there, he was putting it on the money. That one throw to Kyle Pitts on 3rd down, that's the one that stands out to me, because he knew that he was going to get hit, and he kind of faded a little bit, put a little touch on that ball, put a little air up on that ball, and let Kyle just go get it. And that's the type of stuff that you want to see from your 37-year-old quarterback, who people think, and I know I was one of them, I was like, that man, like, he like 60 years old in that first game against the Dolphins, when he took over as a starter for when Michael Penix was out. So yeah, that I like watching Kirk operate tonight. That was a nice thing to see. There was a nice flow to this offense, and haven't been able to say that hardly at all this year, but you got to call it out when you see it. So yeah, my game ball goes to Kirko.
I'm going to give mine to employee number 8 for making a catch like that, because again, we're talking about Kyle Pitts. It's like, oh, what is the Kyle Pitts mess up that's going to happen on a play like that? Like normally a Kyle Pitts, that would be the mess up where he doesn't secure the ball hits the ground or something like that, and it's not a catch or something like that. And so for him to show the level of consistency that has not been the norm for him, throughout his career, but it has been the norm for him against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you talk about, the almost touchdowns, right? Like last year with the Antoine Whitfield strip at the goal line, it was like, woo, oh, that was, and then tonight with the butt elbow simultaneous, it's like, appreciate your refs. You did us dirty earlier in the game, but you came back strong at the end of the game with some of the favorable calls. So got to give my game ball to employee number 8, Kyle Pitts.
And I got to give my game ball to effort. I was at that game in the Benz this past Sunday, and for me, I just did not see any effort that was worthy of talking about in any phase of the game for the Falcons. I felt like tonight I saw effort and moxie to play this game all the way through for 60 minutes, and that I feel like is why we're talking about, for the first time in 6 weeks, a dub. Thanks to our everydayers for making the Falcon Squad Show your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked on Falcons with your host, Aaron Freeman, for more post-game coverage shortly. The Falcon Squad Show and Locked on Falcons are part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. See you next time with hopefully more dubs in the chat.